Yeah. The default on this kind is 1.5 turns from full, so you turn it fully in, and that's full now. So that's 0.5. See that, and that's 1. I'm gonna do 1 in a bit. Okay. The air screw basically is just how much air is allowed through the smaller passages to allow the bike to idle, as obviously the throttle is closed, blocking off. So when the throttle is closed, there we go. There's no air going through here at all. Need to clean this carb out before I put it back in the bike. There's no air going through at all, so the air screw allows, there's a little hole at the bottom. That is the hole for air, for the idle. Changes how much air you can have to idle basically, and then obviously the idle adjusts here, adjusts the different speeds of the idle. I'm not sure how, but it does. Okay, so part 2. This is about different conditions, altitude and temperature. Basically, the same as humans, bikes need a certain amount of oxygen to breathe, and engines need the same to be able to explode the fuel and air mixture efficiently. Altitude and temperature both affect the amount of oxygen in the air. So a high altitude obviously has a low air content. A low altitude, measured from sea level, has a high air content. Cold weather has more air, hot weather has less air. So carb adjustments need to be made to add less or more fuel to the mix to maintain the correct balance. The best way to get an idea as to where you are is by using a carb table, which shows you the adjustments recommended for your altitude and temperature. Now you should get one in your manual. I've got one here. This is for my 125. This won't, if your bike isn't the exact same bike in the same year, that the 2008 is very different jetted to the 2009. This just won't be suitable at all, so don't use this for your bike. Get your own carb table, make sure it's right for your bike for the right year, and it's extremely helpful. You've obviously got altitude over here, and you've got temperature across the top, and then you find where you're meant to be at, and that gives you a baseline to go from to jet your bike. Obviously you still need to take into account track conditions and your riding ability. If it's thick, deep stuff, make it richer, and the track conditions are flatter and harder, make it leaner. But don't sue me if you screw your bike up. So yeah, you can Google your chart, I'm sure there'll be one. Rich and lean, let me explain rich and lean. Rich and lean is, rich is having too much fuel in relation to air. That is rich. Okay? It's nothing to do with the oil. Some people think that having a lot of oil means it's rich. It's not. It's fuel to air. Rich is too much fuel, or a lot of fuel. Lean is the opposite. It's lots of air, not enough fuel. Okay, it's always safer to have a carb adjusted too rich rather than too lean, as an overly lean condition places loads of wear on the engine, and it can cause the bike to seize up very quickly, which I've learned the hard way. My bike has seized. Track conditions, as I said before, if it's deep sand, mud, go richer. Signs that your bike might be running too rich is a wet, black, oily spark plug. If you take it out after you've just ridden and it's wet, black and oily, that could mean it's too rich, because that's the unburnt petrol and petrol and oil left in the cylinder. And if it's smoking excessively at the back, and if there's like a black spooge in your, on the back of your exhaust coming out, that's all the crap, all the unburned petrol and oil getting thrown out the back of your exhaust. Signs of lean would be a grey or a white spark plug. It should be ideally like a tan brown, and basically, he shows what part of the carb is delivering fuel depending on how far you've got the throttle turned. So across the bottom you can see if your throttle's turned between neutral, like normal, and 1/8 turn, so that's really just a tiny, you're cracking it a tiny bit. Then your pilot air screw and pilot jet is responsible, and your throttle valve cutaway is responsible. That's in that first little column. And obviously it shows between 1/8 throttle and 1/4 throttle, and then 1/4 to 1/2, 1/2 to 3/4, and then 3/4 to full throttle. So that shows you what's delivering fuel at those throttle ranges. So for example, if your bike is not responding at all really very well, you've not got good engine response, from closed throttle to just slightly cracked, you're just moving off in first gear, getting the bike going, you're going to want to look at your pilot air screw and the pilot jet. Maybe they're too big, maybe they're making the bike bog, or maybe they're too small and it's you're getting that lean sound which you don't want. So yeah, obviously you can even draw on your throttle like a biro or something. You can wash it off later, where 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4 is, and then as you're riding, look at it when you're getting that poor response. It might be you're getting it from half throttle to full. It's responding really nicely, picking up right from stopped to half throttle. As soon as you get to half throttle, the engine might just not be responding nicely at all, and then you'll know that's probably, if you look at this chart, it's probably going to be your needle jet and your main jet. And then obviously you've seen in part 1 and part 2 of this video how to open up your carb and change that stuff. So you can get in there, you can change it, use that throttle, the carburetor table, or if you don't have the carb table, get the manual for the bike, and it should be in there. It should be something in there that tells you what the stock jetting is. Put the stock jetting back in, then take into account your altitude, your temperature, your riding conditions, and which is what I've explained previously as well. And then you should be able to jet from there using this table, a carb table, and all that kind of stuff. You should be able to get a really good idea of where you're meant to be at. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I hope I've explained everything. I just wanted to add, just looking at this table, that the throttle valve cutaway, I haven't explained that yet. That's basically the slide. It's the piece, the metal piece that attaches to I showed it earlier in the video, that attaches to the throttle cable and holds the needle. It's that metal thing that moves up and down inside the top of the carb, and it covers the entry and the exit, the holes where the air will blow across. That is your throttle valve cutaway. Now most people never mess with that, because it's machined to a certain shape, and I just don't think you need to mess with that really, unless you're like really into carb engineering and stuff and whatever. So yeah, forget about the throttle valve cutaway. That you don't need to mess with that at all. There are a few other things that can affect the jetting. Old piston kits can cause a rich symptom. Yeah, dirt in the carb can cause problems. That's very simple. You've seen how easy it is to get the carb off or just open it.